Okay, this is part one of my website copywriting series. I'm creating this series is so that I can share with you the process of how I create brand messaging and positioning for my clients. And if you are someone who's starting your own service-based business, you can literally take these videos and write your own website or hire someone like me to do it for you and help you flesh out your message. But either way, this is going to be a behind the scenes of start to finish, the onboarding call, the questions I ask, the marketing methodologies and frameworks that I use, how I pull and extract that information, the voice of customer, the writing process, breaking it all down. If you're a service-based business looking to book better clients by fixing your message, or if you're like me, a freelance writer who wants to add this as a service to your freelance writing offer, you're gonna love this video because I'm pulling back the curtain on how I got started. And spoiler alert, it took a lot of ups and downs to get here, God closing doors, me losing my confidence, wondering whether I was even in the right field anymore and what I should really be doing with my career. It is a lot. And that's when everything changed. So let me take you back to the beginning when I was doing $2,000 blog posts for tech writing clients, thinking this was it. And this was before I knew how much I would come to love website copywriting. So this video is both a pivot story, but it's also a reminder that even when quote unquote good things dry up, it's really just God redirecting you towards something deeper. Comment down below and tell me, are you somebody who is looking to write a website for your own service-based business, or are you a freelance writer like me wanting to offer this as a service to your clients? Let me know in the comments down below. So if you're a longtime viewer of this channel, you know I teach freelancing business tips, messaging strategy, copywriting, and marketing. I pivoted from a career in B2B tech sales in 2019 to becoming a full-time freelance writer. And that journey was so transformative that this whole channel was birthed out of that notion that you could go from a 9 to 5 and kind of hating your life to working on your own and being self-employed, which was always a dream for me ever since I read The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss and birthed this dream of like working remotely for myself without a boss. I never knew how I would actually do it, but once I did it, I wanted to scream it from the rooftops, hence why I created this channel, hence why I created my online course, 30 Days to Paid, that teaches client acquisition skills to freelancers. But before I got on YouTube and before I started this paid copywriter brand, I was just writing for B2B tech companies. That was how I freed myself from my 9 to 5 corporate sales job. And when I first started writing, I was writing SEO blogs, case studies, I do press releases. Like I was the freelance writer that literally did anything and everything that was handed to me. I would do anything just to hustle, because even if I didn't love what I was doing, it meant getting paid and not having to return to W-2 work. I wrote occasional landing pages and some email nurture stuff, but I did a lot of ebooks, gated content, voice and tone guides, and these deliverables are very specific to like the B2B landscape. And it paid well, and I literally entered it because it was a quote unquote high paying industry. My invoices for single deliverables were really high. And while I was incredibly grateful for those opportunities, it never felt like a calling or like a soul thing. It kind of felt very impersonal. I also never felt like my writing was actually making any type of difference. But again, I just was saying to myself like, hey, as long as I'm not working my 9 to 5, that's all I can ask for. Yeah, this maybe isn't fun, but work isn't always fun. It is what it is. And I just kept trucking along. So in 2020, there were so many shifts that happened in my life. The biggest one being was that I came to Christ. I decided to throw away all of my crystals, my Buddha statues, my New Age books, all of my astrology stuff. Like literally, I just threw it all away and decided to follow Jesus. Didn't really fully understand what that meant, but I felt like I was just answering that call. I felt convicted that I had been practicing yoga and meditating and was just diving into so many things that I had put other things before God. And I wanted to find out who this Jesus was. And that journey was kind of quietly going on in the background. Sharing about my faith was never something I planned to do. Again, I'm in tech. I transitioned out of this corporate background where you just don't really talk about certain sensitive subjects. Mind you, this was 2019, before the world has changed so much since 2020, but during that time, at least, everything wasn't about politics and religion. One of the big shifts for me was that I felt that, okay, yes, I'm writing for these clients and I'm making money, but what else is out there? The main driver for me was kind of selfish in the sense that I wanted something with my name on it. Like, I felt like I was ghostwriting for these marketing professionals and these executives and these CEOs. Ghostwriting can be very lucrative, but there's really no bylines. There's no by Christine. My name wasn't attributed to anything. So I felt really called to share about my freelance writing journey and kind of teach other people and show other people the transformation that I had undergone of like, hey, this dream is possible for you too. I've always been really into teaching and sharing information, and this felt like a really great outlet for me. So I began learning other types of marketing that didn't have to do so much with the B2B space, right? Because B2B marketing is pretty different from, I would say, the quote unquote launch space, the coaching and course creator space. So I had to pivot away from that B2B content marketing to really learning about what a sales funnel was, what a sales page was, what running my own email list would be like, building an audience. And the original idea was actually just to write an ebook. And as I did the research for writing an ebook and marketing an ebook was when I came across online courses. And I had taken online courses before for things completely unrelated to career. So I knew the power of online courses. I loved online learning. So I was like, oh, okay, like this is a more effective, more profitable way for me to share information versus writing an ebook. So I just went down the online course path. I took Digital Course Academy by Amy Porterfield, and that was how I learned how to build an email list, how to create a lead magnet, building the actual modules is, I would say, is not so much a marketing task. It's more like content course creation, but building the course modules, showing up to promote the course. And honestly, I just thank God that I didn't really understand what it would actually take to get online and show up in public and market an online course. Because if that girl who was just researching like how to write and sell an ebook had known that I would have to get on YouTube, that I would start going live on Instagram, that I would do webinars, I would have never done any of that because that was not my plan. That was not what I got into it. And as a B2B tech writer, all of my business was done through cold pitching on LinkedIn and email. So I didn't have to really put myself out there in any type of way, and I wasn't ready for that. So I just think God exposes one step at a time because he knows that whatever he's going to ask us to do, we really can't comprehend it at that moment. So we kind of just take those like step by step and do what it takes in the moment. So I had transitioned to full-time freelancing in 2019, and by 2021, I was now doing two separate things. I was marketing and selling my online course where I mentored other freelancers on client acquisition, sales skills, marketing, and then I was still writing for tech clients on the side and combined making really good money online. And, many of you have been along that journey with me. I've been on YouTube now for 4 years doing those two things. And I would say the biggest pivot happened in January of this year where I really felt God was shutting doors. There was certain opportunities and situations where I was overqualified and still getting rejected by clients. I felt like God was truly closing doors in this B2B tech space specifically. And I really started to spiral with self-doubt. I started to think like, is this it for me? Has AI completely taken over? And if so, what does this mean for the people that I'm leading and mentoring? Because a big part of what I do is share the results and the tactics that I'm using that work with an audience. So what does this mean for even my online course if I'm not in the writing game anymore? And all of this time, I'd also become pretty disillusioned with the B2B software space specifically, in the sense that I just think there was a lot of value stuff with these software companies, specifically these venture-backed startups, where certain values weren't aligning. So like, I'll give you a prime example. People in the software and technology space, it's fine that they're progressive, but it's just crazy that all of them have to think the exact same way. So like when the war in Ukraine broke, for example, it was like every single software, whether it was like Grammarly, things completely unrelated, the Ukrainian flag had to be splashed across their website, and they had to announce that they had cut off doing work with Russia. It's like, okay, so the innocent Russian civilians who are struggling under their leader now are going to be cut off from doing business with you guys through no fault of their own. Like there's such a sheep mentality, a groupthink mentality in these software startups. And I kind of just stayed quiet on the sidelines of like, okay, they're all singing off this hymn sheet. I don't think that way, but let's not make too much noise, whatever. But even when I would connect with content marketers, it's like every time I get on a call with a content marketer to see what their freelance needs were, I call it Slack zombies. Like their eyes are glazed over. The eyes then begin darting in every different direction because like the Slack notifications, like knock, 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 like all of the noises start popping up and they're ping-ponging back and forth. A lot of them like will text while you're on the call with them. It just became very rude and very disrespectful. And I don't say that to be gossipy or to talk down on anybody. I think it's a product of a company culture where they are overloaded with so many Slack meetings, so many Zoom meetings throughout the day. They're staring into the screen. They're getting pinged left and right. It's like this very insular online world where they kind of just zone out or check out. And I can't blame them for that because I'd probably do the same thing if I was in that full-time zone. And I tell you all of this to share that there had just become a disconnect because who I was when I started writing versus who I have become throughout this journey, it just all starts to shift. And like even people that I know resonated with me when I first got on YouTube, as I've been more open about my faith and who I am, and as I let more of my personality show, there has been a lot of people that have fallen away. There's been a lot of people that have been like, I came to you for these tips. Everything was so good until you started talking about God and Jesus. And so, I say all this to say that like things naturally shift away from each other. And I started to not really resonate with this like B2B tech software culture, even though, I love tech tools. I love tech. I love like sharing these tips and tricks, but I was like, is it really right for me to serve this audience? So a couple months ago, I was praying and I was like, God, what do you want me to do? And, every morning I'm starting, my quiet time and I'm asking God, like, what do you want me to do? Which direction do you want me to go? I'll do whatever you want. I will let go of whatever you want me to let go of, but just tell me which direction to go in. And I said, God, if you want me to continue on the copywriting route, you want me to, stay a freelance writer, send me an inquiry from someone asking for my services today. Or if you want me to go all in on like digital products and going into the online space and being a creator, send me a sale through Kajabi, which is where I make my course sales. And interestingly enough, that day, a request came in for copywriting, but it wasn't from tech clients. It was from a bookkeeper / accountant that I had hired to help me do my books. And I had done website copywriting as like a quote unquote favor for a few different service providers in the past couple years, personal brand photographers. I did some work for a lawyer, but I saw those as one-off projects that had just kind of fallen in my lap. I, wasn't proactively going after those. And I really didn't think that was something I'd ever pursue because again, tech was just like the lucrative, these have the big budgets. These are the lucrative clients, stay where the money is. But once she reached out to me, this bookkeeper, to ask me to help her with her website copy and her brand messaging, I was like, oh, okay. I think that's the direction God wants me to go in. It's not just to drop everything, burn everything to the ground. It's to serve a different type of person who I'm going to resonate with more, who's going to be grateful for the work I do. And yes, it seems quote unquote uncertain. I don't know how I'm going to scale it financially to make it worth my while. But if you're telling me, God, to go in that direction, I at least have to see it out. So that was my first breadcrumb. And because I was in this place of just not knowing what was next, not feeling sure about what my path was going to be, I started to say yes to things I would normally say no to. And I think it's important to share that because I'm someone who likes a plan. The way that I think is like, give me the plan, I will work the plan, and I will work the plan until I start seeing results, and then I will edit. And I like finding what works and then doing it over and over again. I like that reliability, right? And there's something to be said for that because I think a lot of people have the opposite problem where they're just like so all over the place. They don't pick a focus and they never get anything done. I think for me, it's like I stay on a path and I will stay on that path until it's well worn and it's no longer working for me, but I don't want to give it up. So in this period of feeling like, well, I don't really know what's next for me, I was finally open to doing things that normally I would say no to, because I had gotten really good at saying no and spotting opportunities, which again is another really big skill you need to learn. It's like, what's a time waster and what isn't. But I got on calls with fellow freelancers that, we'd been DMing and whatever, but I never really made the time to be like, let's get on a call and have a Zoom. And also, I started to really feel convicted about how selfish and like tunnel vision I had become, where I just didn't make time to talk to people. And that's not a good way to do business. I'm telling you right now, if you are selfish and you are very self-serving and you're tunnel vision and you're not wanting to stop and help people, that just never leads anywhere good. I know that from experience. So like, I just want to say that don't be selfish. Don't be so self-focused that you don't stop and help people. But what I started to do was, number one, I offered one-on-one coaching sessions. I had never wanted to do that because, again, don't like Zoom calls, pretty introverted. I felt like it wasn't scalable. It was a waste of time. But I started offering these one-to-one coaching calls, and I really felt like it gave me energy. And I think we all need to pay attention and focus on what gives us energy versus what drains energy. The fact that those one-to-one coaching sessions and asking freelancers what their goals were and hearing their stories and helping them put together a strategy plan, like that actually fired me up and I loved it. And I think that's just so important. If you do what you really love doing and gives you energy, even if it's not 100% apparent how it will work out and how it'll profit you, I think eventually it falls into place. Whereas if you take the other approach, which I was in with tech writing, where it's like, I'm going to do what I don't like to do because it's profitable, I think that hits a wall at a certain point. So yes, we need to be practical about what is actually lucrative and what will make us money, but we also need to just focus on what we really like doing, knowing that eventually we can make it profitable. So why I love website copywriting is that when I think back to 2019 me, when I had built my first website, my own website, I didn't know what I was doing. I had never built a website. Remember, I'm transitioning from an office sales job. I was a remote sales rep at one point. I had used, CRM software, and I was proficient with technology to an extent, but I was not in marketing. I had never built anything. So when I tell you I built a website, it was like me reading the knowledge-based article on Wix, me calling customer service and being like, it's telling me I have to point a domain. And I wasn't using ChatGPT at the time because it wasn't around yet. So I really had to like do old school reading, whereas now I'm like screenshotting things into ChatGPT and saying like, tell me what to do next. Everything's just become a lot easier. But when I saw the website live and it was like Christine, B2B tech writer, and I wrote my little samples, it hit me in a way where it changed my identity. And I'm like, oh, I'm a writer now. It's not just because, it's so important to have an identity shift when you become self-employed or when you start your own business. You have to have that shift of like, this is who I am now. And what's so powerful about website copywriting is that a lot of service-based business, they've created their website, but they're like, this doesn't really portray who I am and what I'm trying to say and what makes me unique and how my service is different and what my clients really love about working with me. And not only do they get to see that identity shift because it's like up on the screen, it's their digital storefront, it's their business card, but then I help them articulate what makes them different and what makes them special in a way that actually lands with the exact people they're trying to land as clients. So the reason I'm creating this series is so that I can share with you the process of how I create brand messaging and positioning for my clients. And if you are someone who's starting your own service-based business, you can literally take these videos and write your own website or hire someone like me to do it for you and help you flesh out your message. But either way, this is going to be a behind the scenes of start to finish, like the onboarding call, the questions I ask, the marketing methodologies and frameworks that I use, how I pull and extract that information, the voice of customer, the writing process, breaking it all down and giving you behind the scenes of what I do every day and the service that I'm doubling down on in my business. And it's just been a really beautiful journey, and I've done a lot of different types of content writing and copywriting. And this service that I was kind of thinking is like, something I did as a favor or these one-off projects, actually is becoming my focus now, and it's lighting me up. And what do I do when something lights me up? I'm going to share it. So the next video in this series is going to be how to write a homepage that converts step by step. This is something that I charge upwards of $3,000 for. It is the exact process I use for my clients. I'm giving you a behind the scenes look, so do not miss that video. See ya.